Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. Is everyone excited? Good, because we're going to be learning today.
Boo! You stink!
Today's video is going to dive into the attribute system in Oblivion and give depth to those random numbers you may have seen in episodes 1 and 2 of my Oblivion Remastered series. So, to get started, you'll need to get familiar with the 8 main attributes. We have strength, intelligence, willpower, agility, speed, endurance, personality, and luck. Let's dive into each and see how we can use these attributes to best build our Oblivion characters. First, we have strength. The in-game description says that strength affects how much you can carry, how much fatigue you have, and how much damage you can do with melee weapons, such as swords and axes. Let's dig a bit deeper, starting with the carry weight. Every item in Oblivion, from the plants you pick up by the roadside to the skooma you're stealing from Bravil, has a weight. The amount of pure goodness you can carry depends entirely on your strength attribute. Specifically, take your strength, multiply it by 5, and you get the total amount you can carry. Next, we'll need to touch on fatigue. Jumping around like a drugged up rabbit takes fatigue, and that little green bar in your UI, that's your fatigue. The amount of fatigue you have is calculated by using your strength attribute and adding it to your agility, endurance, and willpower attributes. If you have 100 in each of the 4 attributes, you have 400 fatigue. Awesome. Let's talk about how this fits into damage calculations. So, damage calculation, it's a bit rougher than a boar's hide, so you'll need to bear with me. If you're not a fan of math, there's a link on the screen that you can use to skip this part. Your damage starts with your weapon rating. You can figure out your weapon rating by taking 0.75 plus your strength for melee weapons or agility for bows and dividing that by 200. And then you multiply it by your base weapon damage. So now that we have our base weapon rating, we'll take the result of that, multiply it by 0.2 plus your modified skill times 0.015. Well, what's your modified skill? Your modified skill is your skill, like blades or blunt, plus 0.4 times your luck minus 50. So, yes, your luck also plays a role in your weapon damage. Finally, we're going to let the weapon health play a role. So we'll multiply everything we have so far by the weapon health divided by the base weapon health plus 1. With that, we'll divide everything by 4, and we have our true weapon rating. Next, we can use our weapon rating to find out our actual damage. We will take the weapon rating times the fatigue divided by the max fatigue plus 1. That will get us our numerator and our damage calculation. After that, we'll divide the result by 2 times the max of either your sneak multiplier or your power attack multiplier. Now your sneak and power attack multipliers, only one will be used in the final damage calculation. So we'll take our multiplier, 2.5 for a moving power attack, 3.0 for a standing power attack, multiply that by 2, and then multiply that by your opponent's armor rating and your opponent's weapon resistance. Your opponent's armor rating, without perks, is 100 minus the combined armor rating divided by 100, where your combined armor rating is basically a sum of your opponent's armor scores. You take your base armor rating times 0.35 plus 0.0065 times your opponent's armor skill, and then you multiply that by your armor health, and then you divide all of that by your max armor health. Your opponent's weapon resistance is similar. You just take 100 minus your normal weapon resistance divided by 100. Put this all together, and we have damage is equal to your weapon rating multiplied by the fatigue divided by your max fatigue plus 1, and then divide that by 2 times your max of your sneaker power attack multiplier, multiplied by your opponent armor rating, multiplied by your opponent's weapon resistance. The takeaway from all this, your weapons, your skills, your attributes, your perks, your weapon health, your luck, your fatigue, and your opponent's armor and armor health all play a role into your damage. Strength also applies to hand-to-hand damage a little bit differently, and more simply, thankfully. You take 1 plus 10.5 times your strength divided by 100 times your modified skill divided by 100, where modified skill is still your skill plus 0.4 times your luck minus 50. It's then modified by some of the same base factors as above. For example, your power or sneak attack modifier, your fatigue, and your opponent's armor rating all play a role in your hand-to-hand damage. Strength governs the skills of blunt, blade, and hand-to-hand. In the original game, if you raise a skill, the attribute governed by that skill could be raised by a greater amount during level up, but that's no longer the case. There are a few fun facts about strength as well. If you have 70 or higher strength, NPCs will start to comment, "Look at the muscles on you." In addition, your strength has to be at least 30 to drag your opponent's remains to their final resting place. Intelligence is much more simple. No damage calculations to worry about. Your intelligence is the governing attribute for conjuration, mysticism, and alchemy. It affects your base magicka, which is calculated by your intelligence times 2, plus your racial and birth sign bonuses. Intelligence above 70 will have NPCs saying, "You look like a bright one," and unlike strength, which doesn't influence weapon damage past 100, an intelligence higher than 100 still increases your magicka. Now, next we have willpower. Willpower is the governing attribute for alteration, destruction, and restoration. It plays both into the regeneration rate of magicka and fatigue, which, if you remember, is a combination of your willpower, agility, endurance, and strength. Your magicka will replenish itself according to the following calculation. 0.01 times your magicka return base, which is 0.75, unless you've modified the game, plus your magicka return multiplier, which is normally 0.02, times your willpower. Multiply all that by your total magicka, and you have your magicka regeneration rate. So, in essence, if you want your magicka to return faster, raise your willpower at higher levels and your intelligence at lower levels for maximum efficiency. If you are at 275 magicka, that's when you want to start putting attributes into willpower for raising your magicka regen rate. If you have less than 275, that's kind of when you want to stick with intelligence for those lower levels. And remember, enchantments that increase your total magicka are generally better than enchantments that increase your willpower in terms of magicka regeneration. Next, we have agility. Agility is the governing attribute for marksman, security, and sneak. It influences your fatigue, as already mentioned, your self-stagger chance, and the damage delivered by your bows. As with your strength, your damage is capped at 100 agility. No need to keep going forth past 100 unless you want to use agility to continue to reduce your chance at being staggered and further increase your fatigue. Your speed is your governing attribute for acrobatics, athletics, and light armor. It's super easy. It influences your movement speed and the lengths of your jumps. It even influences your fast travel speed. It can be very helpful for survival. Outrunning your enemies all but guarantees your survival. Have you ever wondered why drain speed and damage spells even exist in the game? Well, wonder no further. Other than just reducing the enemy's speed, if an enemy's speed reaches 0 through whatever means, the enemy is not only immobile, but they won't attack or defend themselves. It's like hitting a practice dummy. It's really fun. Endurance is the governing attribute of block, armor, and heavy armor. It contributes to the fatigue formula, your base health, how much health you get on level up, and how long you can breathe underwater before drowning. We've covered fatigue multiple times, so we'll gloss over that one. For base health, every point of endurance increases your base health by 2, so 100 endurance will give you 200 base health. For health increase on leveling, the system will take your endurance divided by 100 rounded down. So if you have 91 endurance, it'll round down to 9 more health on level up. If you're leveling up endurance, aim for a nice multiple of 10. In the original game, this means that you want to take as much endurance as early as possible to get the juicy health gains over time. In the remaster, it appears that it's retroactive, so no need to worry as much about early endurance. Next, we have personality. It's one of my favorite attributes, despite not directly contributing to your character's combat abilities. It's the governing attribute of mercantile, speechcraft, and illusion. More importantly, it increases your disposition to enemy NPCs, enemies and friendlies, by 1 point for every 4 points of personality. You can get more meaningful interactions with NPCs, like the Grey Fox check from Beggars, as we saw in the Market District in Episode 2. In addition, you can get better prices from merchants through haggling, and enemies will accept more yields, allowing you to avoid combat altogether. Finally, with a high enough personality, some NPCs, like bandits or Dremora, they won't even attack you on sight. It's like you're a celebrity. Finally, we have luck. Luck is perhaps the most complicated attribute. It doesn't govern any of your skills, but influences almost everything you do in the game. Think of luck like a coin flip. Above 50 luck and you're winning more than you're losing, and vice versa. In addition, your luck will actually provide an invisible boost to every single skill in the game. We talked about this briefly during the damage calculations, but if you take your base skill level and then add it to 0.4 times your luck minus 50, you'll be able to figure out the skill bonus that your luck is providing you. So let's say you have a skill of 50 in blades and you have 90 luck. You're looking at 50 plus 0.4 times 40, which would give you a bonus invisible blade skill increase of 16 for a total of 66. It's not too shabby. Other than modifying skills, any situation where the game calculates random events, such as using a repair hammer or a lockpick, is influenced by your luck stat. Even betting in the arena is influenced by your luck, since the initial health of the gladiators is actually calculated with your luck stat involved. Notably, luck does not influence loot in Oblivion, so don't worry about leveling it if your only concern is to get as much loot as possible. Loot is mainly determined based on your skill level. Higher levels equal higher loot. And that's how attributes work in Oblivion. If you enjoyed this video or have any follow-up questions, please leave your feedback in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are, and have a wonderful day.